AP released a brand new concept tourbillon watch featuring Spider-Man, which in my opinion, immediately I was like, okay, this is an open work dial and it's Spider-Man. Why didn't you make the movement look like webs somewhere?
I know. People were saying that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So we'll get into that in a little bit because really, AP is one of the greatest watchmakers of all time. They are in the big three.
You never
Holy
know
Trinity.
by these watches, but...
Exactly. So that's what's so interesting because we're going to get into the price of these watches, how they're made, and then we're going to get into why people are upset by showing you what other brands do for less and what is a traditional, like, we are the best watch brand in the world and this is how we prove it.
Yep.
And that is the métier d'art.
Métier d'art.
Yeah, I tried to do French. I hope that's correct. If you speak French, I'm sorry. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. You need a website or domain right now.
What is up, Watch Fam? I am Christian, the curator of the Theo and Harris Vintage Watch Shop.
My name is Michael. I am not the curator, but you should definitely check out the Vintage Watch Shop because I have an 18238 on.
Great watch.
Very great watch. Okay, so you remember the Black Panther watch being released.
I do.
I thought that was like 6 months ago. It was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago. That was a long time ago, and it hasn't aged any better than, you know what I mean? Like, it was bad from day one. It's still bad all these years later.
Yeah, right. What were your main gripes with Black Panther watch?
I just feel, you know, from a logical level, like AP is familiar with the perception of different brands within the watch industry, right? They know how brands are perceived and what brands probably regret doing certain things, you know. And I wonder why AP, a watch brand with such, you know, it's like the young, cool ivory tower watch brand. It's still like the best, but it's hip and it's young and it's athletic and it's sporty in a way that Patek could never be. Right? It's so great. So why do you want to be more like Hublot?
Right.
That makes no sense. Hublot has become a successful brand in of its own right. That's fine.
Of course, yeah.
But the criticism, the reason it's not taken seriously by really like real watch, like the reason it's not taken seriously by the vast majority of watch collectors, by people that genuinely love horology, is because in large part they are like, they always kind of treated themselves like a joke. Yeah. Everything was hyper limited and cheap, meaning, you know, okay, this is just a collab with this soccer team or that soccer team or this car company. Everything's a collab. Everything is very cheap and very kitschy, and there was nothing confident or regal about the brand. It was always
part of like the essential watch world DNA, and you can stray from it, of course, but part of it is being like, we are at the heart of it, like masters of our craft and beautiful artists.
Totally.
And Hublot, I feel like, is the opposite of saying that. They're like, well, no, we fuse, we mix concrete, we mix this, we mix that. What is the next little thing we can find and poke to make a really cool or really bad gimmicky watch?
Yes, exactly. And Hublot has done better in the last couple of years, but historically, this is very Hublot. Like, it's just a cheap collaboration with some, you know, with something that people feel passionately about. So hopefully we can sell these people a watch.
Interestingly, though, when that watch released, I was like, well, the star of this movie franchise died recently. Right. So I was like, okay, I can kind of see, like, maybe it all lined up, like paying tribute to this man that died with obviously this Marvel backing and all that. Yeah. But I didn't understand after that Spider-Man coming out, and I was like, oh, is this like a collect-em-all Marvel collaboration?
Black Panther is not the most famous superhero character. It's not. So this was clearly strategic. There was something there that they wanted to tap into. It's the truth. I mean,
and you hit a few different things.
You got Marvel. You definitely got. I mean, it's, you know, on the podcast we call it like it is, but over here I'm trying to be a little bit cheeky or a little bit rather like you know, controlled. But I mean, I think it was. Cheap pandering. That's it. I thought it was cheap pandering.
Yeah. So.
And now Spider-Man is still cheap, and now it's not pandering. Spider-Man doesn't really represent anything. Spider-Man is just Spider-Man. So it's still cheap. It's just cheap, you know?
Exactly. That's why I referenced a comment. So there's this new Spider-Man movie coming out. Nike has a Spider-Man shoe coming out, and AP is helping to market a movie like Omega and James Bond. So, like Omega, I guess AP is paying Marvel for licensing fees.
And they are, just the same way that Jacob does it with The Godfather, and all these brands, you know, all these brands that aren't in the Holy Trinity do this. Yeah. Because they're not in the Holy Trinity, so they're not really preserving that royalty. They're not really in the business of preserving royalty.
Exactly.
Right? Jacob isn't preserving any royalty. Jacob is trying to push the envelope, get in the news, be rich, and sell a bunch of watches with huge profit margins.
Yeah, of course.
That's it. But Patek understands that they are preserving a class about them. They are the Ivy League. They're preserving that. And AP seems to just not really remember that. And the reason why I kind of think it's particularly bizarre is because, AP and this prior CEO who is now leaving,
yes.
His legacy is the 1159, which I think is a very intelligent watch, particularly in its second generation or the high complications like the perpetual calendars.
Yep.
These are great watches, and they were smart. They were smart. And then this seems stupid. This does not seem educated. It does not seem tasteful. It does not seem thoughtful. It just seems cheap. So it's odd that one person could do both of those things.
Yes.
That is odd to me.
It seems like a very, very far departure from your brand, which is the main thing. Because if you stay in line and you veer a little bit, it's like, oh, well, that was interesting. I forget what it was called, but the DJ Royal Oak, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes, the music.
Yes, it was like, that's weird, but okay. You're referencing popular culture, which whatever. I have a very extensive relationship with Marvel. Go see all the movies with my dad.
Yep.
When they came out, from the first one to the last one, the Avengers one. So I really like Marvel. I think maybe in 100 years, people will be like, that's a weird looking watch.
Yeah.
But it looks like if the brand was a line, like this is the timeline, it looks like it's going like this, evolving, and then there's this weird spike, and it goes back down.
Yeah.
And that happens every few years now. So anyways, AP made 250 pieces of these, and they will come in at 195,000
and they're
Swiss
immediately
francs.
sold out.
Yes. And there is a single piece unique, which last time the Black Panther one went for over $5 million. So people are like, what is it going to be on this one?
Yeah.
And that's where things get crazy. 42 millimeters, it's a AP concept, so it's not really anything crazy outside of their concept line, but good size watch, whatever. Spider-Man is white gold and then painted over.
Who gives a
A lot of it, well, this is where things get interesting because a lot of it is lasered and computerized and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
That kind of takes away immediately from the whole, I paid this much. And you guys did it with a laser? Yeah,
right.
exactly.
This is the same way that Omega does their moons, which is amazing at $7,000 or $12,000.
Yeah.
It's just, this is so bizarre. This truly makes no sense. Well, what AP, obviously they'll sell out, and obviously they will sell at premiums even, because they made so few that, that AP could make dog shit at 200, units, and people would buy it because they want to buy the rare AP. That's it.
Sure, yeah.
It's just funny. Well, how much is it? $200,000?
Yeah.
That's a funny number. That's a funny amount of money to a lot of people. Certainly to 200 people. It's just funny. It's like, I don't know. It's cool. It's like my Swatch. Do you see it?
I already got the Black Panther one.
That's it.
Whatever,
It's cool. It's funny, right?
Yeah,
Do you
right.
wear it? No.
Yeah, right.
Why would I wear it? It's dumb. But it's cool. I want you to know I have it.
It's the most Kendall Roy thing. Or not Kendall Roy. I don't know who it would be in succession.
Well, it would have been like Kendall when he put on the sneakers, right?
When he's wearing the,
It's really bizarre, and I guess I just wonder how many times can they do stuff like this before it ultimately does take a toll on the brand, image.
How many times can they do this before it has to be one of the slides on their website? Like you go you see the Royal Oak, you see this, then you see their Marvel collection.
Yeah, it's very odd, and it really is very cheap.
The silhouette and volume of Spider-Man are first cut from a block of white gold using a CNC machine, and then the superhero suit is then laser engraved to obtain the differences in texture that give it that appearance.
Yep.
Okay, you're lasering it. Fine.
Yes.
You're not touching it. Following the process, touch-ups and engraving-related finishing is done by hand by a single artisan. The painting is also hand-finished step. In all, this is a 50-hour process. That is a long time. That is not a long time compared to what we have seen before. This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Do you have a website or domain? If not, you probably need one, right?
I have a few websites and domains, and they've all run off of Squarespace, not just from now, since we're sponsored by the brand, but since day one of my company as a young entrepreneur. I didn't have resources to even explore other options, really. I got some quotes from some web developers, and I was like, that's more money than I even have.
Yeah.
And then someone suggested I use actually a competitor to Squarespace, which was terrible, my God.
Yep.
And then someone suggested Squarespace. Yeah. And I immediately logged in, made my account, looked through all their different themes, found themes that resonated with me and my brand. It not only helped me build a beautiful, functional website, but it helped me really like what the brand could look like one day, because it was so rich and so not just functional, but beautiful and on brand, really. Theo & Harris would not exist without the tools that Squarespace had provided me and still provides me and this company until today.
And Squarespace makes it super easy to add images, to change things with their new Fluid engine. And on top of that, if you're writing blog posts and you need to release them at a certain time, you can schedule them with Squarespace. You can write everything and create everything in Squarespace. And finally, if Theo & Harris expands to have a storefront, you can have a point of sale system all through Squarespace.
Exactly. I don't just recommend you use Squarespace if you're starting a new company, but if you currently have a company and a website that you just know could be a little bit better, and believe you me, the odds are it could just be a little bit better, go ahead and take a look at Squarespace. They are a trusted partner and really an invaluable partner to us. So that's it.
Yeah. Head to squarespace.com/Theo Harris to save 10% off your first order of a website or domain. So then we get to métier d'art, or however you say it. I'm trying the best I can. It's French. And it kind of translates to Masters of Art. And this is where you see Vacheron, they did their like Sphinx collection, and that's their most latest one and stuff like that. And that is basically saying we are, of all forms of art, of engraving, of enameling, of doing XYZ, we are masters of that. Mm-hmm. And we're going to put that on our watches, and we're going to show you what that looks like. So it dates back to 1755 when Vacheron introduced a delicate enameling technique, miniature painting, whatever. Mm-hmm. We've seen it many, many times. But you remember, obviously, AP is in this Holy Trinity. Vacheron is in this Holy Trinity. Mm-hmm. So you'd assume the Masters of Art kind of carries on this throne, right? So, for example, this is a Vacheron.
Yep.
That is insane.
It's insane. This is a seahorse. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And this is in 2021. It released a Métier d'Art tribute to the Great Explorer series, an artistic nod to pioneering 15th century Portuguese sailors. A 30-piece collection. It's an extremely complex miniature painted dial, and it depicts sailing ships and historical sea charts and 11 layers of paint, each fired at 800 degrees Celsius in the kiln before the next layer can be added. They're taking this dial, painting on it, changing it, or putting it in the kiln, taking it back, painting more.
Yes.
These take much, much longer. This is, everything here is the finest that you can possibly get. This is a brand saying, okay, you're going to spend money with us. This is what we're going to give you. The best of the best. We don't have only the best watchmakers. We have the best artists doing this on a tiny canvas. Then we look at Cartier. They basically took straw and gold and made that into pieces of literal unbelievable art. Just to show, this is our brand. Yes, of course, you can go into the store and you can buy a Panther or you can buy a Santos or something. But like, the reason you respect us is because of what we're also doing behind the scenes to keep this art alive, to have these artists going on. All of that put together in 2018, it's hard to get the prices for these watches. But the price of one of these VCs, 159,000 Swiss francs.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
That is an unbelievable, this is a 30-piece limited edition, gorgeous piece of art.
Covered in sapphires.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is cheaper than an AP Concept tourbillon.
You're 100% right, and I'm glad that you are bringing this, the parallel, because that's apples to apples, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's both of these brands. It's these two Holy Trinity brands, and look up Patek's, enameled Calatravas as well. I mean, it's all in the same ballpark, right? It's when the brand gets weird, how do they get weird? That's the question. How do they get weird? And if you like it or don't, it's not really the point. It's not about whether you like it. It's about, this is the brand's identity, understanding the far reaches of the brand's identity, right? When forced to get weird, how do they? Yeah. And AP basically gets weird with Marvel, which is kind of a joke.
Yeah,
it's kind of young, it's kiddish, it's not really, there's nothing mature about it at all. It's a joke. It's a joke. Whereas Patek and Vacheron, when they get weird, it's with the most incredible craftsmanship and enameling and woodworking known to man.
Exactly.
In watchmaking. And that's it. I mean, it's Patek and Vacheron aren't being forced to separate themselves from AP as more mature. They're just behaving the way they do, and AP's doing all the talking for them.
Exactly.
You know, what is the old expression? Better to not speak and
better
right?
to be thought of as an idiot than to speak and to be proven as
exactly.
one.
I mean, it's exactly what it is. I mean, if AP never made this stuff, they wouldn't look as dumb. You know, so it's wild. It's really wild.
It's one of those things where it's like, of course, you can like that Spider-Man watch and you can buy it, whatever, that's fine. But when you look at the grand scheme of the watch world and you're like, why would people possibly be upset? Like, it's a cool Spider-Man watch. It's like, look at what you could also get and look at what people are doing versus what this other brand is doing at this price.
Totally agree.
One seems like a marketing strategic thing. The other thing is also marketing, but it is a show of like complete talent, prowess. Yep. Like, no, we are Paddock because of what we deliver.
Exactly.
And it's not CNC laser engraving machines or anything like that. When we get to this level, it's far beyond that.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah,
the brands are so different now, more different than ever, and they're supposed to be different. What's cool about AP, what's fascinating about the brand and valuable is, Paddock and Vacheron are very similar. Right, mm-hmm. They're very similar.
Yeah.
So it gives AP an opportunity to be the younger, more industrial brand. That is cool. Like that is amazing that they have that in their DNA that Paddock and VC simply don't have.
Yeah.
So don't fuck it up. Own it. Maybe you don't want to do enameling the way Paddock and VC do it. I agree. Yeah. Maybe you shouldn't at all. But what is it instead? And it's certainly not a Marvel issue. Is it a concept with I don't know, like finely finished structural, structures in the dial? I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but it's certainly not that.
Yeah.
Watches are unimportant to the time. They can't speed, slow, or stop it, and our phones tell it better. But, as vessels for memories, they know few rivals.
The big kind of wrap up of all of this is there's obviously a market. Obviously, Dwayne, The Rock Johnson, Kevin Hart, it's gone. It's gone. Yeah. They're all wearing all the Michael B. Jordan, everybody. You immediately see them with these watches on. So there is a market, but the interesting part is AP the one that should have grabbed that market, or should have another brand have grabbed that market? And just for a regular talk, if that market is there, what do you think should be done with it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think the market is there in the sense that you're saying it is. Like, the market is there because it's AP. If it was another brand, they wouldn't buy it because it's dog shit.
Oh, as in...
There's not a demand for a Marvel fucking watch.
Wow.
At that level?
Yeah.
No, at Swatch for sure.
Wow.
But at that level, no, of course not. I mean, it's too below, and they would have a hard time getting rid of them, believe me. And they would make very few, and they would do a lot to try to fucking pretend as if it was a huge hit.
Fascinating. Okay.
100%. They just buy it because it's AP, and AP at the moment can sell anything, and that doesn't mean you should.
Right.
That doesn't mean you should. And so where's the line?
How many? Right? We talk about
AP
this.
could make the erotica watch, like the Universal down erotica. They could do that right now, and they could sell out immediately.
Yeah.
AP could literally sell anything. Yeah. AP could put a very controversial opinion on a watch, and it would sell, like something even hateful, and people would buy it. Like, oh, this is the AP hate watch. You know what I mean? And people would buy it. And then you look back years later and you say, wow, what happened to that brand? And it's so clear because you can just look.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Not to say this is a death sentence, because it's not.
Of course.
But how many? How many before it has a drastic impact on the brand?
How weird is it in 20 years when you look back and you're like, they released an entire Marvel collection in like the 20s, in like the 2020s?
The 20s.
I didn't know how to frame that. But you know what I mean? It's like, what?
Weird.
They did what?
Yeah.
Especially if they follow that trajectory, because if they do, I guess then you're not going to be as surprised. But if they go back to just being like, no, under a new CEO.
You're right.
They're like, no, we make fine watches. It's like, what?
Two more things. Number one. What about the average AP buyer? Not the guy like me that wants to buy one Royal Oak.
Yeah.
Not that guy.
Yeah, right.
That's not your... That's... Well, maybe it's average. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about AP significant buyer.
Yeah.
Buyer that buys buys 1 to 2 watches a year,
Yep.
or over 10 years has 5, right? Like guys that own APs. Me, I would just buy 1 and I would move on, and that'd be the end of me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That guy, every year, brands are competing for his money.
Yeah.
Let's say he spends $150,000 a year on watches, which is way more common than you think.
Yeah.
Every year, people are competing for his money. Mm-hmm. Okay. A friend of ours, recently been courted by AP, ended up with VC.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Like that's because there are many factors at play.
Yep.
But when other brands are vying for your money, or your client's money, you need to be on your best behavior, because all of this stuff, even if it's subliminal, even if a lot of these people are like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to buy the Spider-Man, like whatever, but they don't feel whatever. They don't feel dismissive about other brands.
I have $500,000 in your watches because it's a fine watch company,
Exactly.
and now what is this? It doesn't make me feel cool.
AP doesn't just need people to buy one Royal Oak like me.
Yeah.
They need people to say, I'm invested in this brand. I buy 1 to 2 a year. Or I buy, I fucking throw AP between $80,000 and $100,000 a year.
Right.
And a lot of guys do that. And that's not even a big number. People go way bigger than that. Right? AP will never have a problem selling their jumbo. That's not that's a favor to give you a jumbo in many ways.
Yeah.
Right? They need people to be buying their divers, their offshores. They need people to buy the 1159s,
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff is it's a lot of money, and you need to really be invested in building with the brand. So what does the brand need to do to get to the point where fewer people say, yeah, I'm not going to pick, that's not going to be my brand where I build my home. I'm going to build my home at Vacheron or at Patek.
Because the top looks like this. I'll get this.
Or maybe I'll be open to a Japek, or maybe I'll be open to a Rishepi, or people. There are other people competing for the fucking money.
Yeah, right.
So who knows? Who knows what happens? But your public perception is not that forever, right? I mean, it can be
You're
changed.
chipping away at it every time.
And the last thing I'll say is, the rumor is, or the legend is, and I believe this, when the Offshore was released, Gerald Genta went nuts.
Really?
Because he felt, you took my design, my perfect design, and you completely perverted it. That is the legend. I think it is correct in many iterations, meaning that he would be right to feel that way. And I also do believe the story is true, but whatever.
Yeah.
What would he say about this?
Oh my God.
What would he say about this? The concept, actually kind of cool. The concept's cool. I kind of like the concept. Sure. That's AP's all right.
That is the name of the watch.
The concept is the collection.
Yes.
But I like it quite a bit. But the Black Panther, the Spider-Man, what are we doing here?
Right.
You've taken everything beautiful out of my design. You have made it a shell of what it is. And
you took the bezel and blew it up and then put characters on the inside.
You've pimped it.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
that's how the dog barks.